Let's go.
Oh, okay, cool.
Writer, director, producer, once upon a time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino.
To do at the end. Yeah, exactly.
Should we talk about it? Let's go.
I hope I did my best to put it up there.
So happy you got it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, well, that's actually, it's kind of interesting. I think Rick is a neurotic little crybaby.
Let's go.
Hi guys, we need to come.
One more koozie from
Hi,
Repo Man.
guys.
Oh,
Hi, guys,
okay,
we need
cool.
to come
Thank you, man. My pleasure, man. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep. Come through, everyone.
Hey,
Hi,
Q, can I ask you, how much do you handpick your background?
It's kind of interesting.
Did you ever do that? You handpick your background?
No, I have a person who brings them in and I look at them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I was the paparazzi guy, one of your paparazzi
Oh, okay.
guys this year. I was just wondering, did you actually handpick some of those guys?
A lot of them, a whole lot of them. I did, absolutely.
Thank you, brother.
You got it, man.
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting.
We need to come.
One more koozie from Repo Man.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thank you, man.
My pleasure, man. Thanks a lot, guys.
Come through, everyone. Come through, everyone.
Yeah, buddy. So I'm working Perry Mason on tomorrow, the next day. But tonight I went to a casting director's thing and saw some casting directors do that thing. It was all females. All females. Anyhow, I met one of them afterwards. And then instead of going home, I went to the Directors Guild and I gave Quentin Tarantino my third Repo Man koozie. That's right, I met him and I got it on videotape again. And then I asked him, I said, hey, big guy. I didn't say that, I said, hey, Q. I said, hey, how much do you handpick your background? And I was like, do you ever do that? And he was like, yeah, I have a person, they bring them in, and I look at them, and I go from there, whatever. And I said, well, you know, I was a paparazzi guy for you. And I said, well, I was one of your paparazzi. And did you pick those guys? And he's like, yeah, we did. Handpick those guys or whatever. And I was like, thank you, man. And he was like, my pleasure. And he took my Repo Man koozie, and inside that Repo Man koozie there, I also put in a little red magic marker, a Sharpie. I don't know what color this is. Anyhow, it's a good color. And it's in there, it says R.J. Asher with my new telephone number in there. So he's got a koozie, and it says Repo Man, and he wanted it. I gave it to him. He's like, another Repo Man koozie? And he was like, oh, yeah, cool, thanks. He was real happy. Somebody prior to me, I got it on videotape, just said, you worked with my business partner, and he just brushed her off. He walked straight away from her. And then I gave him the Repo Man koozie, and he was a joy. And then I time it right, and then I get to ask him that one question about, did you pick your background? Did you handpick those background? And anyway, I gave him another koozie that was inside the Repo Man koozie. And it said, pussy's pussy. Meaning that, you know, all vagina is the same, which I don't believe. You know, everybody has a different... No, I just picked it up at Burning Man somewhere. I didn't tell him that. I should have, but I gave it to him because of that pussy wagon in his pictures with the Kill Bill, you know. So I figure he's going to pull that koozie out and find two that I wrote down there, R.J. Asher, and my telephone number and the word actor on there. So anyway, he's going to know that I'm a bad actor and I should be kept in the background. All right, give me a call later. I got to work on Perry Mason. I'm going to have a big part there. I'm playing a prostitute user, you know. They said I'm a John. I'm a brothel patron, and it literally says Johns, and I'm the first guy on the top of the list named John. So it's kind of funny coincidence there. But anyway, you give me a call at your convenience. We'll talk further. All right, cheers.
One more koozie from Repo Man.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thank you, man.
My pleasure, man. Thanks a lot, guys.
Come through, everyone.
When it occurred to me as I was rewatching the movie recently that you haven't set a film in Los Angeles in a long time. What drew you back to LA for a film?
Those ads that you used to see in Playboy magazine. Yeah, no shit. No doubt. Yeah, well, that's actually it's kind of interesting because like my first 3 movies almost kind of played like a Los Angeles trilogy to some degree or another. And well, I mean, you know, to answer the question though, is like what drew me was Hollywood 1969, the idea of dealing with that decade, that era, and primarily setting it in Hollywood. So I'm not really dealing with, you know, Vietnam or this or all these different aspects of it. I'm dealing with how the industry itself is changing, and then the idea of dealing with it from a character's point of view who's kind of on the outside of that change. No doubt. You take that one, man.
Quentin, to his credit, had to wait 50 minutes in a broom closet just about.
Yeah, no shit. No doubt.
And to do at the end. Yeah, exactly.
You take that one, man.
I did tell the people that I was bringing Quentin. That was sort of like a card that I kind of wanted to do at the end. Yeah, exactly.
Great Rick Maverick move.
Yes, it was fabulous.
Well, like you just said, though, I mean, it's like when you watch a movie, you see, even when I'm watching an older movie and they drive by a theater market, you're like, well, what's playing there? What's playing? Those ads that you used to see in Playboy magazine that would be like, what kind of man reads Playboy? You know, and it has the hi-fi there, and like the groovy records, and the bar, and whatever. And then I just kind of westerned that up. And then put a bunch of posters that idolatrized his career. So he's surrounded by pictures of himself everywhere. And one of the really groovy encounters that we ended up having is, we looked at it for a possible Rick's house, and then we ended up not using it for Rick's house, but it ended up being perfect for Sharon and Roman's backyard. Was this one house, and where was it? Where was it? Tarzana? Or what?
Tarzana.
Yeah. Well, it just so happens to be Lee Van Cleef's house, and you know he passed on in the '80s, but his wife still lives there, and it's a beautiful place. And I mean, Lee Van Cleef is one of my very favorite actors of all time. One of the people that I would wish I could have ever worked with. All right, and so you know, and his wife still lives there, and she's lovely. And I was like, I can't believe I'm going to Lee Van Cleef's house. And then I get there, and then like, you know, and it's filled with all this old Lee Van Cleef stuff that she has on the walls. And so I feel like I'm just in a Lee Van Cleef museum, and so I'm just happy as a clam. And then I go, not the museum, I'd be a charter member of it, all right? But I go into I want to look at everything. And I go into the garage. And in the garage, there was this, it looked like a section of a big billboard that had been up at some point, and it's like a cool drawing of Lee Van Cleef from a spaghetti western. But it's like, you know, it's just one section of it, well, probably a 6 or 7 section billboard. And it's obvious that, you know, a friend of his came by it someday and bought it and gave it to him, and he was like, oh, that's nice, and you know, and put it in his garage. And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. So then I thought, well, wait a minute, and I never explained it, but it was this whole idea that somebody was driving down the damn road in Tucson, Arizona or something, and they had the Comanche uprising billboard. Somebody's taking it down, and he goes, hey, I know that guy. I know Rick. Can I get that, you know, that section of his face? Yeah, sure. All right, and so you know, some guy named Andy, all right, you know, gives Rick the billboard, and he's like, oh, great, thanks, Andy. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? So he's like, okay, fine, just put it out there, put it out in the driveway. We'll do something with it later, you know. And then I could even imagine him telling like a clip, I'm tired of looking at this fucking thing. Can we put it in the garage or something? Well, you put it in the garage. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the garage. Can you clean it up? Well, you say it like that's like an easy thing. I mean, that's like that's a 5-day thing, cleaning up the garage to put the billboard in. Okay, we'll just leave it out there then, all right? And it gets rained on, and so it was I like putting things in there that suggest an entire story that I never tell. You mean like the song's music particularly? Well, you know, it's interesting because in the opening page of the script, where I'm kind of describing Los Angeles in this prosy kind of way. And I'm describing, and I'm using even in the prose to kind of introduce KHJ and how it's going to be an important thing. And I kind of even give a little history of KHJ at the beginning of the script. And then I wrote a thing in there that everyone who read the script, oh, what's that mean? There was a director that I was a really big, always been a really big fan of, named Floyd Mutrux. And he always had a really fantastic soundscape in his movies, whether it took place in New York or LA, where there was always just constant radio and constant snippets of songs and radio, and it was just this constant soundscape that was, it's really kind of unique to him. Other people have done it, but especially something like a movie called Dusty and Sweets McGee. It's really terrific, and also Aloha, Bobby and Rose. And so I said that this whole film kind of has a Floyd Mutrux soundscape. So I knew I was going to have that. I knew it was going to be a ton of commercials and some of the stupid contests that they would do, and the jingles, and the DJ patter, and bits of songs. But exactly what songs I was going to use, there's a few things that I knew, but not a whole lot. And even some of the things, because I worked on this over quite a few years. Even like I'd make a few different cassette tapes of what I would think would be the soundtrack. But what happened was, and so I was thinking I was going to do this or do that. But then I got about, our research people got me 14 hours of actual KHJ recordings, between 68 and 69. And then there's no KHJ museum that you go to and they just give that to you. This literally is people back in 1969 with a tape recorder hitting play and record and playing, recording an hour of the Real Don Steele Show or an hour of Robert W. Morgan or Charlie Tuna. And I had 14 hours of it. Well, I had no problem listening to all 14 hours. And I had to listen to it so I could write down everything it was and to see what was good. And, pick the commercials that I liked and everything. And in doing that, it was so authentic, it was so right on, that I was like, okay, any idea that I had before, because there's a couple times where people put a needle on a record, but other than those moments, if it's playing on KHJ, if it's playing on the radio, then it has to be in these 14 hours. It has to be, and it has to be from these tapes. And one of the interesting things about that, it reminded me that it's easy to just get lost in the big hits that are playing on the 60s on 6 or any oldie stations. But what you really had back then is, you had songs that were a hit in this place and that place, and then they went national, and then those are the songs that we remember. But Los Angeles would have hits that would just be in Los Angeles. I mean, they would be a big hit in Los Angeles, and they would sell here, but they didn't travel. They didn't travel nationwide. You had hits in Detroit that didn't really travel anyplace else. You have hits in Texas that didn't really travel anyplace else. But there, they were iconic, and they played all the time on the radio. And that kind of is what KHJ kind of did. So songs like "Son of a Lovin' Man" and everything, you'll find those on Little Steven's Underground Garage or something, but you're not going to hear that on the oldie stations. And I was like, well, this is part of that sound. And I like the fact that you hear it, and even though you might be hearing it for the first time, like you Bring a Little Love In or something, you're hearing that for the first time, but it sounds like you've been hearing it for your whole life. Actually, car scenes, I find them really easy. It's like, one, it's kind of fun to get the car out on the trailer and everything, and that's where we are. All right, that's what we're doing all day. We're going back and forth, and that's kind of fun. All right, the actors are pretty cash. All right, they're just sitting down all day. All right, doing their scene. We go back this way, and but also it's like directing-wise, the pressure is just a little bit off. I mean, there's only so many ways you can shoot the coverage in a car, so you just pick the best one. So what I try to do, if I have multiple car scenes in a movie, is I try to juggle the coverage. So however I shoot, I don't know if I did that on this one, but normally it's like if I shoot Jules and Vincent one way, then I'll never shoot Vincent and Nia with that same coverage, or Jackie and Max, compared to Max and Ordell.
Is that just because you don't want to repeat yourself in any way, or you want to keep the viewer feeling fresh?
Well, it's just the idea that you only have so much. You have only so many angles you really can't shoot in a car. So the idea is to not make it boring by just plugging them in. All right, it's just giving it a slightly. I can't do much, but I can juggle the coverage.
What is it about the almost star of the '60s that fascinates you so much, that inspired you to create Rick?
Well, I find the careers that happened and the careers that didn't happen are absolutely fascinating to me. I mean, I just think it's so interesting. I mean, one of the things that when I meet, especially when I meet an actor that's had a really either a successfully long career or even is going through a wonderful success, for a period of time at that moment. And it's a situation where it's like, well, the reason he's had this success is because he did this role, because of this movie or this TV show is how it all happened. The question that I'm always curious about is, what was it like when you went in for the audition for that role? When you first walked in? I mean, like I asked Matthew Perry the first time I met, okay, so when you came in and read for Chandler, for Friends, what was it like the day you walked in to that office to read for Chandler for the part that would change your life?
Yeah. What did he say?
Well, and he said, he goes, well, I was ridiculously unnervous, because I kind of understood this guy, because I was used to being nervous, and I was used to chasing after the character a little bit, especially in an audition. But I kind of got this guy's sense of humor right away, so I didn't know I was going to get it, but I figured I had as good a chance of getting this as anything I'd ever read before. And so it gave me a confidence that I wasn't used to having when I walked into the room. Well, here's the thing, okay, one thing, Leo would actually kind of laugh about it a little bit, about the fact that it's like, I think Rick is a neurotic little crybaby. He actually has a pretty good career, and he's actually done a pretty good job. And there's a hell of a lot of actors, and a hell of a lot of actors he's worked with that wish they had the career that Rick Dalton had and has right now. And he could be doing better if he tried harder. All right, if he wasn't complaining about everything. Rick is not coming from this ridiculously artistic place. Oh, I want to work with Antonioni. I want to work with this guy. I want to work with that guy. He wants to do studio movies because that's what a class-conscious actor is thinking about. Yes, he wishes he was working with better directors. He wishes he was working on better, more prestigious movies, but because they're more prestigious and because he would be paid more. But frankly, what he really, really wishes is, when he looks at Steve McQueen and wishes he had Steve McQueen's career, what he really, really wishes is, he wishes he had an apartment in Acapulco and a villa in Italy, a villa in Rome, and a farmhouse in Florence, and a New York apartment and the house in the Hollywood Hills. That's what he wants, and I think he has a pretty good situation. And he just doesn't appreciate it, and little by little he kind of comes to appreciate it. But that's his, so I'm not coming from Rick's point of view. I think that was a problem with a lot of those actors at that time. But then the interesting part about that, though, is, okay, so a guy does a TV show and he tries to TV to movie transition, it doesn't quite work. Or a guy's on a TV show and he wants to do that movie transition, so he tries to get out of the show. He tries to get out of it before it's over with. Well, he might be trying to get out of the one role that everyone is going to remember him for and love him for the role that 20 years from now he's going to be going to autograph signing contests and autograph signing conventions, all right, and selling the poster for that, all right, and talking about it on panels, and that is his role. And he wants to leave that to do crappy movies. Or he goes and does a couple of exploitation movies, or does some spaghetti western, and he puts them down. Oh my God, this stupid movie about a giant wasp, and I got to play the guy fighting the giant wasp. Oh, this is horrible. This is so stupid. All right, oh, I got to do this crappy spaghetti western. The Dagos can't make westerns. What the hell is this bullshit about? All right, So that's how he's thinking. Yet those movies are actually become these cult films that, like, people who don't even remember his TV show, they remember the Flying Wasp. You're the guy from the Flying Wasp.
If you talk just a little bit, kind of conversely, about Cliff and your interest and relationship to figures like that in Hollywood history.
Well, to me, I mean, one of the things about the movie, if you break it down with the sort of three main characters in it, Rick, Cliff, and Sharon, is one of the things I really like is I like the idea that you see three social stratas of Hollywood going on. In the case of Sharon, you have the good side of somebody, they're on the rise. They're doing well, they're doing big movies, the future seems in front of them, and the future seems bright and rosy, and they're in that it factor. They're going to the big party. They're being considered for the good stuff. They're being considered for good roles. They're they have the right circle of friends and everything like that. So that's the exciting part. Rick is kind of on the other side of it. Again, he's not doing as bad as he thinks he is, but he is kind of now relegated to television, and that's kind of his situation. And he's not going to be up for the lead in a big studio movie anymore. He had that time, but that time has passed. Now things can happen, but nevertheless, that's where he's at. Cliff represents somebody else. Cliff represents the people who have worked in the entertainment industry their entire life and don't really have anything to really show for it. All right, they have good memories. They have kind of a fun, exciting life, but they talk. Cliff would probably talk as if he lives in Hollywood, and he doesn't live in Hollywood. He lives in Panorama City. He drives to Hollywood every day to do his work, and then he drives back to Panorama City. And there's tons of old stunt guys that they've been around forever. Now they live out in some slum in Van Nuys, as they've gotten older. And he represents that breed of man. But but then the other aspect about his character is, especially compared to somebody like Rick, is Cliff was in World War II, and he was in the Philippines, and he could have died. He could have died a bunch of times there, and he didn't. And a lot of wild things have happened to Cliff in his life that we never see and never even really hear about. A couple things we have a little glimpse of, but we don't really know now. But he's lived a lot of things that he really probably shouldn't be alive now, or he shouldn't be. He could be in jail. He could be dead. There's all kinds of things that could have happened to Cliff, and he's not. And so he kind of considers, any day I'm not dead, any day I'm not in San Quentin for the rest of my life, right, is a good day. And so that gives him this incredible Zen quality about it, to just kind of go with the flow. I mean, one of the things is, it's like, Rick doesn't like the hippies in the neighborhood, all right, because it's just, who are these bums ruining my neighborhood? That's how he kind of looks at it. He's not coming from a political place. He's coming from these runaways are ruining my town. That's how he looks at it. Cliff kind of digs it a little bit. Cliff's kind of down with that kind of thing. And in his moccasins, and he flashes the peace sign. He's all down with that. He gets their vibe a little bit.
So let's hear it for...
Hey, I worked on this picture. Thank you. I gave you one of these years ago, and I'm realizing you have the same cinematographer.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, for your Death Proof soundtrack signing.
Yeah, no shit,
I
man.
worked background for you this year.
Oh, man. Get to see what scene.
You know, paparazzi scene.
Oh, yeah, no shit.
And the one
man.
coming out of the theater.
Well, those are interactive extra scenes, man. Good job, man.
I heard you were looking for me on the set. They didn't even call me that day, and you had to reshoot some of it.
I don't do that, but that means that you did such a good job.
Thank you, man. Hey, my pleasure, man.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, no shit. Oh, yeah, no shit, man. That means that you did such a good job.
Thank you, man. Hey, my pleasure, man.
So it was a matter of just sort of seeing if they wanted to play ball with us.
Yeah, no shit, man.
That was sort of like a card that I kind of wanted to do at the end. Yeah, exactly.
Great Maverick move.
Yes, it was fabulous.
Yeah, no shit, man.
No doubt. You take that one, mate.
It was fabulous.